All right. We are live now.
All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to this Joint Issues and Distinguished Service Award Committee's meeting to address DSA policies. I'll begin with the conflict statement. Members of the subcommittee are hereby advised of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before this subcommittee with respect to which there is a conflict or the appearance thereof. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Peter or Suzanne to tell
Sure.
us where we're at. I know there's been a draft circulating and I've not seen it. I'm going to review it while y'all speak.
Definitely. And I apologize for the late the late sharing of this draft. We've had a couple other matters that have come up that I will inform you guys about over email in a few days, either today or tomorrow. But this um, I've created this draft based off of the feedback we got at our last meeting on the kind of informal steps that I'd put together. Um, and am happy to walk through it and share my screen so we can take a look at it together if that's in everybody's what we're looking for. Okay. So this generally, there's not too many changes from what we discussed at our last meeting, absent a little more clarity and formality and cleaning up the process. Tried to put it in a kind of an SOP format so it's a little easier to follow for whoever is having to undertake this process the next time that it happens. But it's really designed to guide the committee and the staff council through the review of a candidate's disciplinary history and background checks, both at the beginning of the nomination process and then throughout the approval process. The first step that we decided would be important is to have a review of a candidate's public discipline when a nomination is received, so as not to waste too much time in too much of the committee's time and effort if there is public discipline within the past 10 years. My proposal there again is that they shouldn't be eligible for consideration if they have public discipline within the past 10 years. If there is public discipline that's older than 10 years, then the staff council would disclose that discipline to the Distinguished Service Award Committee when they are considering that nomination at the DSA meeting. The committee has this procedures has a set of criteria, which is the same as what I had shared with you at our last meeting, to consider, the criteria for evaluating public discipline to determine if they want to proceed and consider that candidate still eligible for the award. So that was step one. Do you want to go with questions or comments on each one of these, or we want to wait till the end? Is fine. Either way is fine with me. All right, well, we'll just keep plugging along. Just interrupt me if you have a comment or a question on any of this stuff. The second step is if after the disclosure of that public discipline, the committee determines that they want to proceed with giving this candidate the award, then the chair, when the chair is presenting the nomination to the executive committee in closed session, would need to disclose that information to the executive committee, including the committee's reasons for wanting to proceed, referencing the criteria for evaluating that discipline. So it gets disclosed to the executive committee. Similarly, in step 3, gets disclosed to the full council at the Friday meeting if the executive committee votes to proceed with that nomination. So assuming all of that happens in there and either the nominee doesn't have any public discipline, or it was public discipline that both committees agreed was not enough or significant enough to preclude them from getting the award. The nominee is preliminarily conditionally approved by the council. The staff council gets a waiver from the nominee to give permission to review the private discipline and conduct a criminal background check. If the nominee doesn't agree to do this, then this ends and no award is granted. Once the staff council gets the signed waiver, they'll pull the nominee's private disciplinary history to look for pending grievances, private admonitions issued within the last 10 years, but not consider dismissals with letter of caution or letters of warning as meriting any further investigation. They'll also at the same time conduct the background check. If those are all clean and there's not any pending grievances, private admonitions, or criminal history, that process is done, the nominee can receive the award. If there are pending grievances, a proposal here is that the remainder of this review process just becomes stayed until the resolution of that pending grievance. The staff council will notify the chair of the DSA committee, the executive director, and the state bar president that the nomination is stayed. Once that grievance is resolved, the process can continue based off of whatever the resolution was of that pending grievance. So if that was dismissed, then that's not something that needs further consideration. If it resulted in any public discipline or any public discipline, then that nomination wouldn't be eligible. If it resulted in private discipline, then that would have to go through the consideration process that we already have here. If there is the record also or otherwise indicates a private admonition within the past 10 years or criminal history, then the staff council would share that with the chair of the DSA committee, the executive director, and the state bar president, who I've deemed the evaluation group in this so we don't get confused. There'll be a video conference or a call with this group to consider that private discipline or criminal history using the criteria we put together. If they determine it's not a significant concern, the process is complete and the award can be given. If there is a significant concern, then that group, the evaluation group, shall refer the matter back to the full DSA committee for its to disclose with them and for its full consideration. And if the committee still wants to proceed with the award, then this proposal is that it needs to be disclosed and go through the executive committee and full council again with that additional disclosure in closed session. And that's the proposed procedure here. I did not make any edits to these criteria in this. So these are the same criteria that I shared with you at the last meeting. Certainly willing to take a look at that. I just didn't have time to review that. At our last meeting, we didn't have a ton of comments on the criteria, so I didn't make any changes to it. Any questions on any of that?
No, unless I'm missing something, it seems to accurately reflect our discussion and the details that we had concerns about.
Yes, I think there were some discussions on whether there should be this evaluation committee step, or it should just go automatically back to the full DSA committee. I propose that there might be some of these admonitions that just need a quick meeting in between quarters to say this really isn't anything, let's move forward without having to wait till the next quarter to have the committee meet to discuss it. And they can meet within the quarter. If there is a concern, then the DSA committee can discuss it at its next quarterly meeting, and we didn't lose any additional time. That was one discussion I know we had. We also had whether admonition or dismissals or dismissals with letters of warning and caution should be something that are considered when we do when we do the look into the private discipline, knowing that there are some types of lawyers who just rack up tons of grievance complaints based off the nature of their job that are, should not necessarily, cause any concern. It just is the nature of the beast if they have lots of complaints that end up being dismissed without any actual discipline issued.
So the evaluation committee, the evaluation team is the DSA chair, executive director, and president. What about the counselor from where the nominee is practicing? That might address another issue we've raised.
I have no issue with that other than it potentially shares information with someone who might know this lawyer that they wouldn't otherwise know happened by keeping it without it getting local. If the counselor for that district is in the group, then if it's private discipline, it might be news to that counselor that lawyer got private discipline at all, and shares that with them and gives them additional knowledge. Whether that is good or bad, leave it to you guys to think about.
It doesn't actually say that in I've got one of the releases here.
Mm-hmm.
And they consent to release of grievance records to the Distinguished Service Award Committee. It doesn't say in the counselors from, your district or anything like that. So that concerns me a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to reword that, and it may not be worth the trouble.
Well, I think one of the concerns was that we get all the way through that process, and at the end, we didn't bother to check with the folks at home who could maybe be the possessors of some information that we might need. I don't know at what point in time we would contact maybe the local counselor when it was maybe on down the road and it was looking good. You could maybe just do a check because the nomination would appear to be imminent. And it's to keep us from being embarrassed, like all this other stuff is articulated in the criteria and the overview.
I think it's a good idea to check with the counselor, but I don't think we can discuss their private discipline and criminal background history necessarily with them.
I really wasn't talking about that. I'm just talking about if there's been some embarrassing thing in the community or something that didn't rise to that level.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
Judge, I think that might be a good
embarrassing.
idea. And it might be another procedure that we want to work on just generally how is the committee going to review nominations. And I think that might be a separate procedure. This one being just as it relates to the disciplinary and background stuff, checks, but we could put together a procedure that guides the committee on nominations that includes encouraging the committee to call in the counselor of the nominee's district to comment on the nominee at your meeting.
So would it be up to the person entering a nomination or someone on the committee that can check with the local counselor? I'm hearing different things.
Yeah, I think it could be, you could decide either. I think you guys, the committee could decide how they want to do it. That says, it's strongly encouraged that you include or, ask the local, your state bar counselor to weigh in on this, like during the nomination process, or it could be something that once something's received, the committee invites the counselor of that district to come to the meeting to give their impressions of that lawyer. I think you guys could go either way with that.
Well, just so long as it isn't after the committee has said that the nomination should go forward.
Yes,
And
right.
if the local counselor has some timidity about speaking in front of the committee because of the nature of what they want to say, like I know, he or she just is just notorious socially, or they're doing things that would not measure up to the whatever it is that you want to say here,
Mhm.
in terms of their behavior, that it might be wise to give an opportunity to do that early on in the process.
I think the red flag is many times we get these nomination packets, and there's not anybody from the local district that writes a letter or speaks up or is in support or against the nominee. And that should be the red flag right there. If there's a packet of information, we hadn't heard anything from anybody local about this person, maybe that's when the inquiry should be triggered.
Yeah,
Or
I don't
if there's
know.
only one letter or two letters, and the letters are individual letters and not one that has uh, 10 or 20 endorsements like we saw this last cycle. To me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, and by no means do I want to give the local counselor a veto over a nomination, because that would give them way too much power. But and one of the things I thought about was, what if there's a movement to get somebody the award because they're planning to run for the state house, and they want to use it as a campaign rally or something like that. Maybe that's something that people on the ground would know. A local
Mhm.
council, like, well, the timing of this is not so good. Maybe want to wait till after the election.
Good point.
That is a
That's
good point. And I can tell you, I experienced that. I had someone that I had in the hopper, and before I could get the person up, the person announced that he was running for office, and I had to withdraw the nomination, not realizing what was happening.
Well, I think that, I think this, well, and just as an FYI, it looks like the plan right now, because our great Suzanne is leaving us, is I'm going to take over the staffing of this committee. I was the staff counsel to it prior to Suzanne. So hopefully it won't be too much of a learning curve to get back into it. And I think one of the things that we're going to be looking at this year in 2026 is putting some more procedures in some of these other in our committees, some guidelines and standard procedures. And that, I think, a procedure for reviewing the nominations a written procedure that we can use is a good idea. And that should include in some way encouraging the local counselors' input, whether that's in person or in writing.
But at what stage in
I
the
think
process?
that one should be before you vote on yay or nay on the person. I don't think it would be a good idea to bring them back in after the fact. I think that'd be most impactful when you're making your initial decision.
I mean, would that be something that you or whoever staff council is would make a phone call or something when they're looking over the nomination before the meeting even?
That's what I think. If they're not involved in the nomination, I mean, we can write it all down, but if they're not involved in the nomination, they haven't sent anything in or, signed on to a letter, then you could, with the chair's, give the chair the authority to either the chair to delegate to the staff council or the chair to reach out to the local council, inviting them to either provide written input or come to the meeting to speak on the candidate.
Now, our proceedings are confidential, so we'll have to,
That would be in closed session, I think, yeah.
So would it be easier for staff to do that instead of the members of the committee?
I think probably it would be
I
before
think
the
it
meeting.
would be, but I think you'd want to make it in the procedures that the chair can delegate that to staff council, or that if we vote on the procedure, that it would be the staff council that would make that
I'm comfortable with it
contact.
being the staff doing it.
Or the chair. I mean, I would think
Yeah,
either one of those.
And that's, I mean, and I just want to point out, we'll need to draft that whole procedure, and that could be something that we either do in this working group, or bring a proposal to one of the upcoming DSA committee meetings for discussion, or just continue this working group to work on of any other DSA procedures we want to get down in writing. I focused on just this disciplinary one this time, but we could put together additional procedures for that.
Yeah, I mean, we want to work on the nomination form, I think also.
yeah, I think so too.
Again, I think the red flag is if a nomination packet comes in and there's nobody local in the packet. I mean, a lot of them come in, you got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 letters from local people. It can be taken care of right there without going any further.
Right.
It might be a discretionary thing where, depending, once it comes in on that initial review, you can either delegate the staff to decide whether there needs to be more local input and reach out to the council, or the chair can say, I'd really like to hear from a counselor about this one.
Well, it also seems like a courteous thing to do for the counselor, so make sure they're not nominating somebody the counselor's never heard of. And also, counselor's got to go back after Friday's meeting, and it'll be out that so and so got the award, and the counselor might be blindsided. Like,
Well, it shouldn't go out after Friday's meeting, but
But at some point it
at
will.
some point it will
Right.
go out.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. I've always wanted something like that in place, where you got some sign off or something from the local counselor, just to give us that little more confidence that this nominee is as highly thought of in the community as a letter or two made it sound. Whether, I don't know that it should be required, but I think at least seeking that information would be wise if we don't have clarity in the nomination itself. Just to turn us back to this process for reviewing discipline, is there any concerns or questions about what I've drafted here?
Not from me. I think you did a great job.
I can't think of anything that's come up that wouldn't be covered by what you have in there.
I think it objectifies everything we've been wrestling with. And it's always, we're lawyers. We like rules and regulations and stuff. I think it's always good to have them.
More SOPs. That's what I'm learning every day. As much as I've never wanted to have to write all this stuff down, I think there's some real, value in it, especially for committees when there's new members and turnover, to have reference materials to what to look at.
I like how you formatted it. It's easy,
Great.
easy to read, easy to follow.
I do too.
Well, if this was good, then I think the next step there would be to bring this to your committee, to bring it to the DSA committee in October, and to the issues committee. I think this would probably need to be approved by the executive committee at the very least, if not both that and the council, just as a operating procedure. And then we can continue, whether you want to stay on this committee or not, or whether you want new blood there, to review and draft additional procedures that make it a little bit more formal on how the DSA committee is going to review these nominations.
I'm sorry, Peter, did you intend to incorporate the local council piece before you present it to?
I didn't
Any-
intend to incorporate it in this process.
Okay.
I think that the local council would be most effective before the committee has decided they wanted to give somebody an award. Whether or not, I don't think that they will necessarily add a ton of value to speak on a discipline matter that might have come up that they didn't even know existed. I don't
Right.
think that there's a lot of value in having them there. Because we're doing this one not to, I mean, it might be that someone really is great in the community and beloved, but we have to decide here at the State Bar Council whether we still can stomach them getting an award with the knowledge that there's this discipline out there, even if they're great. Like this is this is internal, the council it has to decide that part. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that we have a duty to make sure we're not giving an award to somebody that it might, bring media involvement and negative impressions because of a discipline or something that has happened or a criminal matter.
Well, that has happened with the North Carolina Bar Association. Someone got an award and it was rather mischievous anyway. And I think my timing might be off in my memory, but I think it was shortly after the person received the award, the mischief rose to notoriety, and it was
Mhm.
publicly known that this person had engaged in what turned out to be criminal behavior, and it was a red face moment for everybody concerned. I don't know if you know about that person, but
That will always be something that is a little bit of a fear of mine, no matter what sort of look back we do, that something that, someone that receives an award does something then after they've received it and gets in trouble. We can't really kind of prevent that from happening, but it's certainly always there as a fear. I don't know if we would want to develop a procedure for rescinding an award or anything like that, if that's something that we want to even tackle it. Maybe that's down the road, something to consider.
Well, there's always a risk in these things, and I think we need to balance um, embarrassment to the bar, but also the rehabilitative nature of discipline. I mean, you don't want to, some guy in his first year of practice makes a silly mistake. That doesn't mean he can never be a great lawyer, right? I mean, if we thought that their conduct was unforgivable, would they be disbarred and this wouldn't be an issue?
That's right.
We keep people, we keep them licensed because there's a hope that they will reform in their conduct.
That's right.
good point.
Well, I don't have anything else for you today other than just for us to thank Suzanne, because she's gonna, skip out on us before the next meeting, so we won't get to see her. But if there's anything that you want me to look at and have another subcommittee meeting prior to October, I'm happy to do it. Or we can present this in October along with the plan to pursue other procedures in upcoming quarters.
Sounds good.
No, this sounds
Okay.
great. I think the nomination
Form
form and everything that goes along with it should be next.
Okay.
Yeah, I look forward to that. Look forward to working on that issue too.
Judge, I think it probably would be good to get just a vote on this if we were gonna say we vote to present
Yeah.
this to these committees for its approval.
All right. Any motions to present this Peter's proposal to the committee?
I move to do that.
Second.
We have a motion, second from Judge Hennett. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Michael.
opposed?
Mhm.
None opposed? All right, the motion carries. Now, would this go to the DSA committee or the issues committee or both?
I think you will want to take it to both.
Thank you.
I think the issues committee does not have to approve it. I would think that, you would want the DSA, this would come, I think the DSA would be the place you would want to approve it to go to executive.
And then the
But we will
DSA
present it as a report to issues. Yeah.
reports the issues. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. All right, well, we'll look forward to voting on it in October.
Could
All
we,
right.
could we distribute a copy of what we're looking at today with the committee members before we meet in session in October?
Yes. Yeah. I think we included in the materials
should.
that we will give them for the meeting.
That would make it go by a lot quicker, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot to read and digest.
Yep.
Definitely. We'll do that. And I'll be reaching out to you guys about sending an email to the council here, hopefully this afternoon, give you guys some more updates on things.
All right.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Y'all.
Suzanne, we're gonna miss you.
I'm gonna miss y'all. I'll
Suzanne,
be
thank
watching
for
you.
everything.
I'll watch the live streams.
Sure you will.
You
Yeah.
you don't have anything better to do. That's all I can tell you.
I might watch the live streams. We'll see.
It's been a joy to work with you,
Well,
Suzanne.
thank you.
Thank
And you all
Thank
as
you very
well.
much for everything.
I'm
you've
still
done.
here. I'm still here for a little bit longer.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank
I
you.
think we're all set.
Thank you.
All right.
We're adjourned.
See y'all.
Thanks.